What if I told you that somewhere in the hills northwest of Austin, Texas, there's a fortune in Spanish gold worth millions of dollars just waiting to be discovered? And what if the only clues to finding it are cryptic symbols carved into limestone rocks by a desperate man who knew he was about to die? This isn't Hollywood fiction. This is the true story of the lost gold of Dagger Hollow, a mystery that's captivated treasure hunters for over 2 centuries. Today, we're following the blood-soaked trail from a Spanish mining operation to a midnight massacre, and discovering why one of America's greatest lost treasures might still be buried just 15 miles from Austin. Welcome to Southwest Desert, where adventure meets the arid beauty of the American Southwest. Join us as we explore the rugged landscapes, uncover hidden historical gems, and dive deep into the lost gold legends and gold mining history of this iconic region. Please leave a like or comment. This is very helpful. Let's journey together into the heart of the Southwest Desert. Our story begins in the mid-1700s, when Spanish miners discovered an extraordinary gold vein in what we now call Travis County, Texas. This wasn't just any mining operation. This was an industrial-scale extraction pulling millions of dollars worth of gold from the earth year after year. The Spanish had it down to a science. They blasted precious ore from canyon walls, hauled it to a sophisticated smelting operation beside a creek, and transformed raw gold into standardized ingots. Picture this: 80 pack animals loaded with leather saddlebags bulging with gold bars, making the 1,000-mile trek to Mexico City's treasury. This happened regularly and the mine seemed inexhaustible. But local Native American tribes watched from the canyon rims as these foreign invaders stripped wealth from their ancestral hunting grounds. And they were getting angry. By the late 1760s, occasional skirmishes escalated into something far more dangerous. Mining parties found themselves under attack. Workers reported seeing warriors silhouetted against the sky, watching, waiting, planning. The man in charge, named Maturo, faced an impossible decision by early 1770. The attacks were intensifying, his men were scared, and the isolation of Dagger Hollow made them sitting ducks. Following Spanish protocol, Maturo decided to evacuate temporarily, seal the mine, hide their wealth, and return when safe. But the Native Americans had other plans. As Maturo's men prepared for evacuation, disaster struck. In a perfectly timed raid, warriors swept down on their livestock herd under darkness. When dawn broke, instead of 80 burros they needed, they had just 12 animals left. Maturo faced a choice that would echo through history: leave the gold behind or stay and die defending it. Being practical, Maturo chose survival but wasn't giving up the fortune entirely. His men hauled 75 burro-loads of gold ingots into a nearby cave, sealed the entrance, and camouflaged it perfectly. Then Maturo took 2 flat limestone pieces and scratched cryptic symbols with an iron bar, a treasure map showing locations of both the sealed mine and this massive cache. He hid these stones under a bush at Dagger Hollow's mouth. With 8 remaining burros loaded with gold, Maturo, his young son Benito, and surviving miners fled the canyon, riding toward their doom. The Spanish column made it exactly 1 day. Traveling alongside the Colorado River, they saw warriors shadowing them from distant hills. When exhaustion forced them to camp near what we now call Barton Springs, Maturo thought they'd found safety. He was wrong. When Maturo and Bonito went to collect water, they discovered fresh moccasin prints, dozens of them, so fresh they must have been made moments before. They were surrounded. Working frantically as darkness fell, the miners built a crude circular fortification. They herded animals inside and stacked equipment for cover. Then Maturo made another fateful decision. He ordered his men to dig a hole in the center and bury all 8 remaining burro-loads of gold. As his son watched, Maturo carved the same cryptic symbols on another rock and placed it directly on the buried treasure. Then he took a third stone, carved his mysterious symbols one final time, and wedged it into a nearby cedar tree's crotch. Maturo had just finished hiding his son behind rocks when the attack began. What followed was a slaughter lasting nearly 2 hours. Warriors fired hundreds of arrows while miners responded with musket fire. Bodies fell on both sides, but the outcome was never in doubt. The Spanish were outnumbered 10-1. When ammunition ran out, warriors stormed the barricade, killing every man and scalping the bodies before melting into the Texas night. Young Benito, hidden in his father's chosen spot, listened to screams and gunfire until silence fell. The terrified boy didn't emerge until late next morning. He found himself alone among carnage, surrounded by butchered remains of everyone he'd known. With only the sun to guide him, 12-year-old Bonito began walking southwest toward Mexico. Benito survived on cactus fruit and frogs, finding water in rock pools and streams. Eventually, a Mexico City-bound wagon train found the ragged boy and took him in. Weeks later, he reached safety. But Benito never forgot what he'd witnessed. As he grew up, he understood the incredible value of what lay buried at Barton Springs and hidden in Dagger Hollow. He was the only person alive who knew the location of a Spanish gold fortune. The problem? He couldn't get back to it. For decades, crises made the journey impossible. The Mexican War of Independence, Mexican-American War, Civil War. Texas was dangerous for a lone Mexican traveler. Benito waited, dreamed, and planned. That someday finally came. Following the Civil War, an incredibly old man crossed into Texas and made his way to Austin. Benito Maturo had returned to claim his inheritance. He hired 2 guides and offered them a deal that sounded insane. Help him find 8 burro-loads of buried gold at Barton Springs, and keep it all. He only wanted the flat rock buried with the treasure, containing directions to an even larger cache. But 60 years had changed everything. The wilderness spring was now surrounded by a thriving town. Brush had grown up, erosion carved new gullies, and Benito couldn't recognize a single landmark. On an old Bible's back page, he recreated his father's symbols, but they couldn't locate the cedar tree marker. After 6 weeks of searching, the old man gave up and returned to Mexico, dying a year later with his secret. Time passed, and settlers moved near Barton Springs. One was Hamlin, described as a poor farmer and quite lazy. He claimed land near the springs, raising few cattle and barely scratching out a living. Hamlin had an unusual routine. When he shot deer or butchered cattle, he'd dig a pit on site and cook the animal immediately. Then he'd load cooked meat onto his rickety wagon and peddle it in Austin. Another man, Jarber, had been trying to buy Hamlin's land, making several reasonable offers always rejected. But one day, everything changed. After telling Jarber he'd consider selling following one more cow butchering, Hamlin made an offer that sounded crazy. His entire 640-acre farm for Jarber's Studebaker wagon and 2 good mules. Jarber thought the man had lost his mind but quickly agreed. A week later, Jarber explored his new property and noticed the deep pit where Hamlin supposedly cooked his cow. Something bothered him about wagon tracks leading away. They were much deeper than incoming tracks. Cooked beef wouldn't account for that weight difference. And where were the bones and hide? Curious, Jarber returned for closer examination. At the pit's bottom, he found impressions. Rectangular marks exactly the size and shape of gold ingots. Heart racing, he searched the area and found an old cedar tree with a flat rock wedged in its crotch. When pried loose, it revealed strange carved symbols. Hamlin hadn't been cooking a cow. He'd accidentally discovered the treasure Benito searched for in vain. Those deep wagon tracks came from hauling 8 burro-loads of Spanish gold away. Within days, Hamlin was seen making a substantial bank deposit, then vanished. Years later, people learned the poor farmer had moved to Oregon, bought thousands of acres, and become part owner of a bank. But here's another twist. Remember, there were 3 marker stones. Hamlin found the treasure, Jarber found the cedar tree marker. But what about the stone buried with the gold, containing directions to the main cache of 75 burro-loads in Dagger Hollow? Hamlin likely found this stone when digging up treasure, but, not understanding its significance, simply discarded it. That single limestone piece contained the key to a fortune dwarfing what Hamlin discovered. In the 1940s, a boy hunting raccoons near Dagger Hollow found 2 flat limestone rocks on the ground. The original marker stones Maturo had hidden before fleeing. Experts confirmed at least one symbol was the Spanish mark for treasure, and other markings matched those Benito had drawn and Jarber had found. The Jarber family kept their marker stone until 1960. Today, those cryptic symbols represent one of the most tantalizing unsolved puzzles in American treasure hunting. Many have tried decoding the mysterious markings. Others have searched Dagger Hollow walls for a cave entrance hidden behind centuries of debris. So far, no one has succeeded. Think about what's still out there. 75 burro-loads of Spanish gold ingots hidden in a sealed cave somewhere in Dagger Hollow. In today's market, that treasure would be worth tens of millions of dollars. The symbols exist. The historical record is clear. Somewhere in those Texas hills, one of America's greatest lost treasures awaits discovery. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe for more great content. Hit the notification bell so you never miss an update. See you in the next video.